pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reminder to please turn your microphones on.
Phones off.
Oh, you know what I was going to say tonight? I was going to say in 5 years, I've never heard a cell phone go off. I'm going to trust everybody tonight, but okay.
And I never have mine on.
Okay.
Oh, dear.
All right. Andrea, roll call vote, please.
Okay.
A roll call, please.
Just
Yeah.
Mayor Bain,
Here.
Counselor Baker,
Here.
Counselor Quinlan,
Here.
Counselor Scalisi,
Here.
Counselor Sherman. Here.
Okay, everyone's had a chance to review the minutes from our regular meeting of October 8th and October 15th. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
So move.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay, minutes are approved as submitted. We don't have any visitors and delegations scheduled for tonight. Would anyone like to speak to council during public comment? Okay, moving on to management. 5A, first reading of an ordinance to repeal the prohibition of loitering for the purpose of begging set out in section 10-4-40, subsection B, subsection 1 of the Brush Municipal Code. Bo.
Well, we were one of 31 municipalities that got a letter in late August from the Colorado chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union and another organization that works with it, telling us that our ordinance was unconstitutional as a violation of free speech. And before we had a chance to even think about the contents of the letter, SRSA jumped in to rescue all of the municipalities that had received that demand to repeal those ordinances by retaining counsel who would provide legal services to all of those communities that got it. We received assistance from that counsel. He sent us a memorandum saying that yes, he agreed with the ACLU that our ordinance that prohibited loitering for the purpose of begging was unconstitutional. It wouldn't withstand a challenge because of current law on the subject, and that we should repeal it. And that's exactly what we're doing by this ordinance tonight, just that one small section. Questions?
Can we replace it with anything, or does it just have to be taken out?
No, we could replace it with
Is
some
there a different
limitations
word?
on harassing solicitation, on places like, I can't think of where this would be in the city, but for example, if we had a city street with a median in it, you could say no solicitations from that point. I don't know that it's a problem in the city that we need to.
We just saw one today, there was one on the corner of,
Hospital Road.
Hospital Road,
Me
Mill
too.
Two.
Oh, yeah?
The other side. So that's fine.
Where, up at the north end, by the interstate in Love's, or down in
By
town?
Hospital Road in Mill.
That one we stopped across the street.
Oh, there, okay, yeah, interesting.
So there's two ways to approach it. If it's harassing behavior, it can be dealt another way, or we can stipulate where it can be done and where it
Right.
can't be done.
Yeah, and I
It
think,
becomes a problem.
using the example that Dana just brought up, I don't think that a person standing at that corner and soliciting money could be restricted in any way. You know, like, we can't say you can't stand on street corners.
Mm-hmm.
Where else are you gonna stand?
Right. Okay.
So if it develops into a problem, or if we hear from Corey that there has been an identified problem, yes, we can do some examination of what we can do to eliminate that. But the bare prohibition that we have right now is unconstitutional. It needs to be repealed from our code.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. To repeal this ordinance, we need a counselor to introduce by reading title and introduce the motion.
I'll introduce the first reading of ordinance number 874-18 to repeal the prohibition of loitering for the purpose of begging, set out in section 10-4-40, parentheses B, parentheses 1 of the Brush Municipal Code.
Okay, it's been introduced. Do we have a motion to either approve or deny the first reading of ordinance number 874 and 18 and publish in full in the Brush News Tribune?
Motion to approve ordinance number 874-18.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Andrea, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Bain,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi,
Yes.
Counselor Sherman.
Yes.
Okay, next item on our management is 5B, schedule council meeting. It's been brought to our attention that staff has indicated the need for adding a meeting on November 5th. And then also to cancel council meetings of November 12th and December 24th because they're holidays. Have a motion to approve or deny the change in the meeting.
I move that we approve the changes as designated.
Second.
We have a motion and second discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi.
Yes.
Counselor Sherman,
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
Yes. 5C, contract to sell properties between the City of Brush and Colorado Land Processors LLC. This was originally scheduled for Monty, but Mo's going to speak to this issue.
Yeah, there's in your agenda packet tonight an 18-page document. It's the Real Estate Commission approved form of contract to buy and sell real estate between the city and between Colorado Land Processors for its purchasing the approximate 23-acre parcel that's going to eventually be known as Lot 1 of Agri-Park Subdivision Number 1 when that final plat for that subdivision is recorded. It sets out the purchase price. It's based on a purchase price per acre, $5,000 per acre, and it's 23 point, what's the decimal, 18?
1-8, yeah.
0.18 acres, and that works out to $115,900. We're asking for $10,000 earnest money deposit that would be held by the closing company. We're suggesting that Northeast Colorado Title Services Company be the title provider and closing company for this contract. I want to point something out to you. There's a list of dates, and you'll notice that the year and all of those dates is garbled. I couldn't get that cleaned up. The wonderful joys of electronic creations. So there's a provision at the bottom of that calendar that says the garbled year in all dates is 2018.
2018, right, okay, yeah. Okay.
We have some special provisions added to this contract at the end under section 30. And the reason we're doing that is that there are some special circumstances that need to be dealt with in this contract. I'm scrolling and haven't arrived there yet. Okay. One of the reasons we're doing this all with the speed that we have undertaken to approve the subdivision and get this contract in place and then some other documents to follow the contract is the buyers, Colorado Land Processors' desire to get some footings in the ground before the frost sets in this winter, so that it can then stay on schedule to put in place its precast concrete walls, I think they are, on those footings. If they can't get the footings in place before frost sets in, that's gonna make a big mess for them. And so we're willing to accommodate them. To do that, we have the first provision under section 30 to say that it can't undertake any construction on the property other than footings after the plans therefore are reviewed and approved by seller and a limited building permit is issued therefore. So that's the only thing it can be doing out there. The second provision is that the contract is subject to the current terms and conditions of the special use permit. We're gonna be granting the final resolution on that tonight. This contract is gonna be subject to the terms of that resolution. The third provision is that the contract is subject to the city council's approval of the final plat of Agri Park subdivision number 1 and the recording of that plat in the Morgan County records. The property is described as only a parcel in the southwest corner of section so-and-so at this point. And then it goes on to say to be described as, well, we don't have a final plat of that subdivision, so we don't really have a lot 1 of that subdivision at this point. And that's why this contract is subject to council's approval. And the last paragraph I put in every time I prepare a contract to say that the other party, in this case the buyer, acknowledges that I'm only the attorney for the seller in this transaction. And I have no interest or relationship with the buyer as its attorney. It takes a lot of pages to cover these provisions. This is a good form of contract. I've used it for many years and I'm very comfortable with it. I like using it because everybody knows what it means.
Right.
And there are no questions that come up when a situation arises. So it's my suggestion that this form of contract be approved by the council tonight and be forwarded to the buyer for its execution. There is a limitation on the buyer getting this back to us, and I can't remember the date I put in. I think it's next month.
Oh, or does that mean, I don't want it to avoid anything, should that be 35 or?
It should be, but it's not a big deal.
Okay.
It's not gonna create a
Roll and
problem.
avoid the
No,
previous
not at
thing.
all.
Okay.
Not at all.
So the bottom line here, Bo, this evening, we're asking for council to authorize the mayor to sign this contract and to allow for any of those small type of administrative changes
Yes,
that
exactly.
Mr. Sherman picked out.
Now, if the buyer comes back with a proposal to amend the contract because it doesn't like the terms in it, we
It
gotta
would have to
come
come
back to
back.
the council for
Right.
approval of that. If it's something minor, that it wanted to change the closing date or something of
Yeah.
that sort from what it's set at, I would agree that's an administrative change that we get to do at the administrative level. But if they came back and said, oh no, $5,000 per acre is too
Right.
much,
Okay.
we don't have that as an administrative decision. That's a substantive decision that would need to come back to council. Karen, thanks for bringing that up.
Okay. All right, do we have either a motion to approve or deny the sales contract between the City of Rush and Colorado Land Processors LLC?
I move that we approve the contract between Colorado Land Processors LLC and City of Rush.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi?
Yes.
Counselor Sherman?
Yes.
Mayor Bain?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to 5D, resolution number 2018-18, special use permit, Colorado Land Processors. Karen has the background on this.
Yes, at the last council meeting on October 8th, we conducted a public hearing, hearing this applicant's request for an animal harvest facility on this piece of ground. And at that same hearing, or at the conclusion of that, council approved their request with a list of 21 conditions, and there was a revision made to condition 12 in that list. And so what you have in front of you this evening is a resolution that documents clearly the basis for that conclusion and then all of those conditions, including the revision to condition 12. Since this is not an ordinance that would become part of the municipal regulations, land use decisions like this are typically acknowledged through a resolution in this type format. So that's what you have in front of you this evening.
So that's the reason we don't see an additional condition, because it was incorporated into.
Or an additional reading.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. Well, no, I mean, Dan asked that additional condition be tied into the utility agreement, which I think was condition number 12. So,
Condition 12 was modified to reflect
The
that
motion.
utility agreement.
the
Yes.
certificate of
It
occupancy
reflects a
would
cer-
be-
At Dan's motion, condition 12 was modified so that instead of the utility agreement needing to be in place prior to a building permit, it's now needing to be in place prior to the certificate of occupancy
Okay.
for the use.
And that's what allowed them to put the footers in the ground.
Yes.
Okay, okay. All right, do we have a motion to either approve or deny resolution number 2018-18?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2018-18, the special use permit for Colorado land processors.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Scalisi?
Yes.
Counselor Sherman?
Yes.
Mayor Bain?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Okay, 5E, support letter for Morgan County Economic Development. Tyler?
Thank you, Mayor. In item E, Morgan County Economic Development Corporation had reached out to the city of Brush because the State Economic Development Office, or the Office of Economic Development and International Trade through the state, they have an incentive, which is an enterprise zone, which is designated distressed areas around the state in which a bunch of different incentives, tax credits are offered. And so Morgan County falls within that. But recently we received back from some of the organizations in town that the state is essentially looking to substantiate the need for continuation of the enterprise zone. And so all the different entities who utilize that and their beneficiaries receive the tax credits, they reached out to the city of Brush, among other entities, to ask for a letter of support validating their role in economic development in our local communities. And so MCEDC, as well as Ebenezer, which isn't on the list because we issued them one already, and then the next item as well, all reached out to the city of Brush asking for a letter of support. So that's the reason that's on there, and so I guess we're looking for a thumbs up from city council that all is good and us supporting those
Yeah.
letters.
Oh, yeah, this motion will give me the ability to sign that letter and send it off in support. So we'll ask for a motion to approve or deny this support letter.
Move for approval for this support letter.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Second? Discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Sherman?
Yes.
Mayor Bain?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi?
Yes.
Okay, 5F, support letter for East Morgan County Hospital Foundation.
Ditto.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing. It will give them the ability to raise additional funds for that.
Correct, and I don't know all the different ways in which they utilize the enterprise zone. There's a variety of different tax credits, from new employees to contribution for specific projects. There's a half a dozen or so different ones, but
Right, our packet showed some of the things they can do with that money if they're awarded.
yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve or deny a support letter for East Morgan County Hospital Foundation?
Can I say ditto also?
No, you can.
Okay, I move we approve the letter.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, second?
Second.
We have a second discussion. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bain?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi?
Yes.
Counselor Sherman?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to 6, finance.
I'd like to make a motion to approve city expenditures from October 22nd through November 5th of
Can I
2018.
change that? It should be October 8th to October
That's
22nd.
right.
Covers 2 meetings.
I was working on the next agenda.
Approve city expenditures from October 8th through November 5th of 2018.
No, October 22nd.
Here. October 8th to October
Like
22nd.
from October 8th through October 22nd of 2018, totaling $221,090.70.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second, discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi?
Yes.
Counselor Sherman?
Yes.
Mayor Bain?
Yes. 6B, 2019 proposed budget capital request from department heads, and we'll start off with Joanne.
In front of you.
You should say ditto too.
Ditto. In front of you this evening, in your laptops or your tablets, the capital outlay projects start on page 45. And in there, it has its own table of contents, and there's actually 52 different capital items that each department heads will come up and talk about during their portion. These are items that are $5,000 or greater that the city would consider a capital outlay.
Okay. First up is Corey for the police department.
I always try to be last, but it just never happens. So only 2 items, so we can keep it short.
Okay.
The first item is going to be the project to replace the 2007 Ford F-150. It's currently used as a CSO vehicle. We have kind of done a lot of research on this. I'll kind of give you kind of the groundwork on this. One of the problems we've had with this truck over the last 11 years is just its usability. Very hard. I'm sure you folks have dealt with large dogs at one time or another. It's as high as it sits. They go into the back of a truck. There's the camper shell and everything. It's kind of a task-specific camper shell on there. So it's really unhandy, and actually it's I would say it's a risk of injury every time you use it. So this year, with the truck being 11 years old now, we've seen a lot of significant repairs. Just last year or earlier this year was a transmission replacement. We're going to be looking at more suspension work done to it. We've looked into a Dodge. They call them a Ram ProMaster. They remind you of the Mercedes-Benz van. They've got the higher top. They're front-wheel drive. The front-wheel drive is not going to be as good as four-wheel drive. We cannot get a vehicle like this in four-wheel drive, but it's still a big step beyond the regular two-wheel drive for adverse weather. And the back sits about 18 inches lower, which makes it much easier for Miss Lebsock right now to go ahead and get larger animals in there, plus we can store all the equipment. This compared to, we're looking at a total to do this van and have it on the street is $38,500. This in comparison to replacing with another like vehicle like we have now, we'd be looking at about $31,000 for the pickup, and then another $5,000 to $8,000 for the toppers. So they're real similar in price, and I think we're going to end up having a much safer, much more usable vehicle in the end. So, any questions on that?
I have a silly question, and everybody else might already know this but me, but what do you do with the old truck? Do you sell
The old
it?
trucks are, if the city chose to, they could use it in another area here. I think with this one, it'd probably go to auction. That decision's not made by me. I believe they go to auction, though.
More than likely it'll be auctioned.
There's two items, I'm sorry, any other questions?
No.
Okay, there's two items under the next item, which is going to be the replacement of two of the police vehicles. One of the vehicles is a 2003 Ford Crown Vic. I believe the police department got that. It was like a year or two old when they did get it. It was a demo car that they'd gotten. It's showing its wear. It's showing its years. It's 15 years old. A lot of issues right now that aren't really worth fixing, electric windows, stuff like that, are just going out, and these cars have been deleted from Ford. They don't make them anymore, and that would replace an investigations vehicle. And the second vehicle would be, and I'm sorry, that would be replaced with a Dodge Charger, same thing that we're driving right now. They're all-wheel drive vehicles, just a standard police Charger, and the second vehicle on this to be replaced would be a 2010 Dodge Charger, 8 years old. That's pretty much the max we take them to. That vehicle it's still in service, but it'll be replaced with another like Dodge Charger. Last year we started going to the all-wheel drive. This year we started going to the all-wheel drive. We haven't really had any need for the all-wheel drive as far as bad weather since we just started taking possession of these, I believe about 2 months ago. But it's been what we've learned from State Patrol and stuff like that. It's an $1,800 option to go with the all-wheel drive, and it's money in the bank. They're just altogether a different vehicle when we're dealing with bad roads. Most people have all-wheel drive now. They know the difference.
right.
So once they've had it, they don't want to do away with it. So those come to at $45,000 each vehicle, and that's the vehicle and all the retro that goes into it. So.
And these are just older vehicles. We had the vehicle that was totaled when the 18-wheeler came.
That
we
does
already
not,
took care of it.
that does not include that
Okay.
vehicle.
Okay.
That would be replaced under insurance coverage, I would presume.
That one's being done under insurance, and
Okay.
that car's been ordered. The car that was totaled was ordered. It showed up in Denver, got off the rail, and got destroyed by a hailstorm right after they quit doing the 2018s. So we're working with Dodge right now. There's another one ordered. That will end up being a 2019 to replace that
Okay.
vehicle, if it can make it here safely.
Was it one of our older police vehicles? Do we get lucky that way, or?
Somewhat. It was a 2011, so it would have still probably seen another year at least.
Okay.
So
Could have been worse then.
it wasn't brand new.
It wasn't brand new.
Okay. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Corey.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, we have Karen for Community Development.
Yes, the requests you have here this evening are ones that council has seen previously. Some of them have previously been funded, some not. The first is related to a Quiet Zone Phase 2 study, and the dollar figure here was $20,000, and for both 18 and 19, so it comes to a total of $40,000. And it was a study to review, evaluate the Hospital Road crossing, and then also to look at possibly County Road 26. We've also talked before about looking at East Edison Street where the crossings are there. So this request is to take a look at those crossings and dive further into that. I know council's had some discussions, but I don't think we've completely resolved those questions. The next item is a request to update building codes. Due to limited staffing in my department, this is where we need to call in some outside expertise just to kind of help get some things taken care of. And so the estimate for this was $6,000. The next item relates to this particular room, and that's the replacement of the HVAC system, the air handling, heating and cooling. This was installed back in the mid-'80s, and every year I ask for this, thinking we can change it under controlled circumstances, but the general consensus has been we'll wait till it actually dies. But I just like to keep it in front of you all that this is a potential fairly significant expense to get that air handling unit taken care of. And then the last item is related to the airport, and this is part of our long-term plans for the airport development. Calls for north side of the runway, all the landside development happening there. And to facilitate that, we need to get access to that north side without having to go across the existing tarmac. And so this is a request for about $5,500 to secure an access easement through someone else's property there on the north side of the airport. So we would need to work with that landowner and effect a legal agreement and such to get that taken care of.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Cemetery Park Recreation Golf Course. Joanne is going to speak to that.
Ditto.
Ditto.
No ditto.
Lance was unable to make it this evening, so I told him that I would do his presentations. His first item is purchasing a pickup for the Parks and Cemetery Supervisor. They are requesting that they replace the 2001 Chevy S10 pickup, which currently has 120,719 miles. This pickup would cost approximately $40,000 to replace it. This next item would be the city utility vehicle. This is to purchase an additional utility vehicle. It's not to replace one that we currently have. And the reasoning for this is the volume that the utility vehicles are being used. They would like another one because of the scheduling problems with the parks and the cemetery to do the spraying of the weeds. So this one would be used to spray and other chemicals in the cemetery, parks, and bike paths. and its cost would be roughly $19,000. They have also put in a request to replace the 2010 Toro mower. The oldest turf mower that we in service is the 2010 with 2,950 hours, and it's requiring more and more maintenance all the time. It also would be used by both the cemetery and the parks department. And that's $24,500 to replace that. A new item that they have added this year is to purchase a compact loader. This loader is different than a regular loader because it's easier on your turf, your grass, so it doesn't cause as much wear and tear on the grass. It does have Bobcat style attachments. It would be used in the park, cemetery, and the golf course, and it could possibly be used in other departments if needed. It's $55,000 for this particular loader. The next item, those first few are for capital reserves. That would be general fund money that would be used. The next item is a sandblasting and painting the pool. This would be a three-way split between Conservation Trust Fund, the Capital Reserve, and the Joslyn Needham Fund. So the total project is $75,000. It's to sandblast, fill cracks, and repaint the swimming pool. There's several cracks and leaks in that pool right now, and by sandblasting and filling the cracks, then that would eliminate some of that water leakage that we have going on right now. We'd be requesting $50,000 from Joslyn Needham. Conservation Trust would be putting in $15,000, and Capital Reserve would be putting in $10,000 for this project. Also for the Conservation Trust Fund is a swimming pool ADA lift. This would help make our pool compliant with the ADA requirements. And the cost is to install price is due to the liability. It's recommended this device be professionally installed. It's $7,500 total to install an ADA lift. There would be $3,750 requested from Joslyn Needham, and the other $3,750 would come out of our Conservation Trust funds for a total of $7,500. The final item that he has actually has been proposed to come out of the Community Enhancement Fund, and that is to install a perimeter fence on the remaining 3 sides of the campground and install a card pay system. This year we've had some problems with people breaking into the steel locked box for payments into the campground. We've had some homeless sleeping in there, and this was a way to kind of have a better control of it. People could go online and pay in advance to stay there and use their credit card. And so this total project, there's 3 different ways you can do it, but the medium range is $62,100 for this project. Is there any questions on any of Lance's? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Director of Public Works, Dale.
Thank you, Mayor. Of course, I'm going to be a little more needier than the other departments at this point.
Well, you got a lot
just,
of
just by
streets, water, trash,
Yes.
wastewater, and stormwater.
Exactly. The first item we have up comes from Capital Reserve Fund. It is to replace one of our dump trucks. We currently have one that's a 1999 Freightliner, and of course, anybody that's dealt with a 20-year-old dump truck knows that they tend to get worn out pretty easy. This would be a split between the street department as well as the Conservation Reserve, Capital Reserve Fund, plus the water department, because we do utilize these trucks as well on water breaks. So there is multi-departmental use of this particular vehicle. Next item comes from the Water Fund, and that is our Edmund Street water service replacement. This has been on the radar since 2014, and for one reason or another, it just does not seem to be able to be completed in-house. And so what we're looking at is actually having this particular water services move from an old main to a new main, get rid of the old main, and go from there as part of our water system upgrades. The one other thing that does play into this as well is that section of Edmund Street is starting to look really, really rough, and we're going to lose it pretty quick if we don't do something with the street. But it makes very little sense to go in there and preserve the street, do something with it, and then just puncture holes all through it. I mean, So a little unorthodox, but we would like to get it fixed first, then fix the street, fix the water main, then the street. So next item is from the water fund as well. It's well number 12, reconstruction and repair. For whatever reason, well, 12 is not all that old. It was probably 2000. Well, it was fairly early on. It's not that old of a well. Anyway, for whatever reason, it is failing. It has failed. The casing needs to be re-drilled, or we need to reline the casing and jet it out and replace the pumping equipment on it. So, next item is the water fund, out of the water fund, and it is the water department's computer replacement. It is on our recommendation from our instrumentation, the company that does our instrumentation, that we replace these computers about every 3 years. This is the computer that runs our well field and runs the alarms and keeps everything moving. So they are pricey, and we're looking at $12,000 for that. The next one is upgrade of the well telemetry system. Again, our instrumentation company is recommending that we replace some of the radios that we have out there, because we communicate with radios, and some of the radios we have out there, we're like only one of 3 municipalities that still run that antiquated equipment. And so there's better equipment, and of course everything on occasion does need to be upgraded. So we're looking at roughly $78,000 for that particular project. Also from the water fund, we're looking at a vehicle purchase, very similar to what the Parks and Cemetery is wanting to do, is purchase a small 4x4 utility vehicle. This vehicle would be used to get around the well fields, because we do check our well depths and monitor the water levels out there in the well field. Plus, it'll also be used to help haul chlorine bleach out there. And so during the mornings and whenever we have the use of this vehicle from the water department, we can then also co-use that within the Public Works Department as well. So, and we're looking at $30,000 for that. Next item is from the water fund, and this is our ongoing replacement of the water department backhoe. About every 3 years, we rotate this out. The water department purchases a new backhoe, and then we send the 3-year-old backhoe out to the Parks and Cemetery, and that way we always have really good equipment, and it's always, and cemetery also gets some pretty good equipment out of that as well.
Dale, is this
It says 2 years, but I thought we were doing 3-year rotations.
I believe it should be the 3 years.
Yeah, it should be 3-year rotation. I just now noticed that myself.
Is this something where you do the exchange program?
I don't know that we have the exchange program anymore, do we? We used to do an exchange program.
We trade that out.
We trade it out. What we'll do is we'll buy the water department will buy a new one, and then we'll take the existing water department backhoe and then give that to the cemetery, and then the one that's out at the cemetery gets traded in. Yeah. And so we are looking at roughly about $100,000 or $50,000 for that. Next item is water meter replacement and meter reading equipment upgrade from the water fund. This is a very big ticket item. The current equipment was purchased in 2009 that we currently use to do meter reads. It's currently a handheld system where you actually have to go up and touch the meter pit. And so what we would like to do is upgrade to a radio read. Right now it takes a lot of time for staff. It takes 3 people 3 days or 2 days to get in and around and read the water meters. With this would be done in a matter of just minutes, by which we would have a radio antenna receiver, and we'd go out and we'd pull all the water meters in town, and then they would send the reading back to us. And then that way we'd only have to go out and look for anything that may have a faulty wire or just wasn't reporting backwards. This would also require some new meters. This is going to be a multi-year project. This is not something that's going to be done in one single year. Water meters, and as much as people will not believe it, but water meters never read faster. They always go slower. And as time goes on, these water meters, we start losing 2%, 3%, 5%. All of a sudden now we're losing revenue. So it does pay eventually to replace your water meters out. And so over the 3 years, we were looking at $595,300. Next item for the water fund will be water tank painting. We tend to look and inspect our tanks on a 10 to 12 year schedule. The health department's requiring now tanks be looked at every 5 years. And as such, if we see anything that needs any rust or damage on the inside, we need to get it repaired, because that could be a violation of the primary drinking water regulations as well. But it's just good routine maintenance to inspect, because it's an unseen infrastructure inside that tank. You don't really know what it's going to be like. This would also be kind of a piggyback or a concurrent project with the pool painting as well. We tend to have pretty good luck with the companies that do this tank painting also tend to paint swimming pools. And so the more business we can give any company that the successful bidder on this company, probably the cheaper the price. So we are looking at roughly $405,000 for 2019. Next item will be with the trash and garbage fund, and this is going to replace the trash truck and compactor. The current Peterbilt that we have, as a matter of fact, it's up at Rush Truck right now being repaired because it's been worn out. I mean, it was undersized when it was initially purchased back in 2004. And as such, it's seen a lot of wear and tear, and it's hauled a lot of garbage out to the landfill. And as such, we need to replace it because it is starting to get to the point where we are putting repairs into it, and we are looking at $225,000 for a replacement truck. We replaced one of the trucks 2 years ago, correct? Yes. And that's been a good deal for us. Next, we'll move on to wastewater. We're looking at a biosolids dewatering press. One of the things about wastewater is you're always generating some sort of solid somewhere. And as such, we have to stabilize these solids in a digester. And then we use those stabilized solids, which we call biosolids. They're biological solids, and we use that as a fertilizer on our farm ground to grow alfalfa. One of the problems that we've been running into is that on occasion, with the farmer, he's got his crop up, he's not ready to cut the alfalfa, but we're running out of room, and so we're pigeonholing these solids anywhere we can in the plant, in an empty tank anywhere. One of the things we would like to do is dewater these solids, and the intent is eventually to turn the English pivot, the English farm site pivot, into a biosolids application site. And so what we would be doing is creating a solids from there. We are looking at $565,000. We were trying to get some state funding to go along with this last year, but it did not occur. So we're looking at wanting to complete the rest of the financing for it this year in 2019. So $565,000 for that. Next item is wastewater fund. We have digester gas equipment. This is safety equipment that for the methane gas handling that occurs with that solids digestion and stabilization I just talked about creates methane gas. It's a wet methane. It's very corrosive. However, it is still very dangerous. It is natural gas. And as such, we have to have flame arresters and safety equipment in order to prevent this from creating a hazardous situation. Keep in mind that this will, we're looking for $12,500 in 2019. This will be a multi-year replacement of some of the safety equipment. It's also the same kind of equipment you'll see in the oil patch. It's very pricey. You're paying for a lot of insurance when you buy these things. So, next item is for the wastewater fund. Looking at reducing some of the energy costs down there. Start looking into getting a solar energy array system down there. And for 2019, they're looking for $150,000. Wastewater is probably the largest electrical consumer in the city of Brush, correct? Correct. So we're burning a lot of electricity down there. Next on the wastewater fund is a water transfer pipeline to our field pond, hand in hand with dewatering. Once we start dewatering some of these solids, we have this filtrate that's left over. It's an excellent fertilizer, but it's high in ammonia, so it's perfect and for the alfalfa, but it's not good to try to run it back into the plant because our plant is designed to remove ammonia, nitrogen, as well as phosphorus. And so when you dewater these biosolids, then you wind up putting that back into the facility. And of course, then you have to burn more electricity to remove it. And so we are looking at $10,000. What we would do is we would just pipe that material straight out to the pivot. Because again, the farmer's not always harvesting when we need to be out there. And so this would also help out quite a bit as well. Next in the wastewater fund is dissolved oxygen and oxidation reduction potential probes and their controllers. We utilize dissolved oxygen as well as oxidation reduction potential to help do with our nutrient removal. And as with any sensors, they do have a shelf life and they are aging, and so we are looking at wanting to do a replacement on that in 2019 for $60,000. Next in the wastewater fund is fall protection at all potential sites that could have falls. There's a lot of deep pits, a lot of deep vaults and tankage out there, and as such, we really need to be looking at our fall protection out there. We've currently started it this year, but this is going to be a multi-year retrofit as well. And so for 2019, we are asking for $10,000 to help purchase fall protection equipment. The next item is a spare ultraviolet system module. We use ultraviolet radiation to disinfect our wastewater prior to discharging it. And currently, we only have half of a replacement module on hand. So if one side goes down, then what we'll do is we need to be able to replace it. And so at this point for 2019, we're looking for $8,500 for another module. Also in the wastewater fund, we're looking at retrofitting one of our buildings down there. They call it the bunker. It's a subgrade building that housed the original UV unit that we had back in the 80s. And as such, the roof needs to be rebuilt, and it could use a few upgrades to make it usable for storage. And as such, we're looking at $12,000 for a new roof and some retrofitting on that. Then in the wastewater fund, we also have wastewater samplers. This will be a multi-year rotation out on that. Wastewater samplers, these are automatic samplers. In order to test the wastewater, has to be sampled accordingly. And as such, again, this is equipment that we currently have, but it's fairly antiquated and it's starting to wear out. And so we want to start doing some replacements on that as well. So we are looking at $12,500 for 2019 to start this replacement. Also in the wastewater fund, we are looking at mixer replacement. This has been a 4-year project. If you look on this here, it shows that it goes out to 2022. I believe that is an error because we've been replacing these mixers for the last 3 years. This will be the 4th and final completion of replacement of these mixers down at the wastewater plant. The ones that we have were probably not as efficient as they could have been, and we continue to have problems with the ABS brand. And so we are looking at $50,000 for 2019 to finish that replacement. And again, I believe that 2020 through the 2022 is an error because this has been a 4-year project we've been ongoing. Also in the wastewater fund, we're looking at process building heaters. We have, because of the hazardous environment down there, we need to make sure that we have explosion-proof equipment, and we have heaters that have been starting to corrode up a little bit and are not performing. It's led to some freeze-ups. This will be a multi-year project for up and through 2023, and we're looking at $9,000 a year. Explosion-proof equipment is very expensive. And so for 2019, we are looking for $9,000 to start replacing these heaters. And then finally in the wastewater fund, we are looking at a vehicle replacement. They're looking at a Ford 2002 Ford that will be 17 years old, and the wastewater fund is requesting $45,000 for that pickup replacement. Finally, moving to stormwater fund, we're looking at installing some stormwater manholes up and down Edison Street, most notably from about Hometown Hardware east to Race Street. We have a stormwater line on both the north and the south side of the highway, but there are no manholes to access it. It cannot be cleaned, and so we don't know the condition of it. We've been noticing potholes that have been, or small little divots that's been showing up alongside the highway. We go in and fix them, but they start coming back. We've also noticed some holes in the highway off to the side where you can tell there's a void underneath it, and we suspect that it is the stormwater line that is probably not in the best conditions. But we can't inspect it. We have no way of getting into it. We'd like to complete this particular project prior to 2020. That is when the state plans on coming through and doing a mill and an overlay of Edison Street. And so we want to have this in the ground and done beforehand, and before they actually get in there and do that paving. And we are looking for $70,000 to have these installed. Also with the Stormwater Fund, we are all looking at the Brush Agri Park. The Stormwater Fund will be putting in curb and gutter and catch basins and stormwater lines to help with that development of the Brush Agri Park out there. We are looking for $70,000 for that project as well. And then finally, with the Stormwater Fund, we are looking at building an overflow pond out at the Brush Agri Park. Back in 2015, I think we all remember the big rains that we had, and our very large stormwater pond up there at the Brush Agri Park actually overtopped. And so we are wanting a little bit of a relief capacity out there, so should we ever get into that situation again. So we're looking at approximately $120,000 for this project. Are there any questions?
What's your total?
Way more than Joanne will ever give me. There's going to be a little slicing and dicing on these. So, okay.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Tyler for marketing.
Right. My one little request seems kind of insignificant, but since it's on the front end of things, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty significant, and that's updating our website. Back in 2014, we had built from scratch our current website, and didn't foresee some of the things that were necessary, but just the way technology is continually expanding, and also ADA requirements that are out there for government websites, as well as the need for a website to be responsive, meaning if you use it on a tablet or your cell phone, it expands and fits the screen size and is adaptable for the format. As well, right now I'm the only person in the city who knows how to get on there and utilize the program Dreamweaver. So it requires a lot of coding, which most folks are naturally unable to do. So by putting a new website in place, it would implement a CMS where people can go in and change all the data on the website as necessary, so people in all the different departments would have access to that overall. So those, as well as some other needs, I can't think of the reason why, but it's $15,000 to get that in place. Any questions?
Thank you, Tyler. Fire Department, Ray.
All right, we have 3 requests. The first one is a replacement of our SCBA's, our air packs. So there was a meeting, I believe last week, with the city and the roll board because it's a 50-50 project. It was determined that in late 2019, the city would purchase 18 packs for $163,375, and the roll board in early 2020 would purchase 17 packs for $154,300 for a total of $317,675. Some of you were here in 2013 when we needed to replace our air packs, and to save money, we purchased used air packs, and those air packs have served their purpose, and there's no more warranty on those packs. So anytime a pack goes out now and we have to send it in, we're looking at a $2,000 cost just to repair the pack. And right now we have 3 packs sitting in the trustees room waiting to go back to be worked on. So it's starting to become a cost that we don't need to continue to pay for. It's time to upgrade. So
one of the things I could point out is at that meeting, Ray, is that the reason we're talking about the city and doing it in 2019 and the rural board doing it in 2020 is just to accommodate. They're on a fiscal year, we're on a calendar year, so that was one of the reasons.
Okay.
Part of that reason.
But I'll let the council be aware with it extending out. So the end of 2018, we're probably going to catch a 15 to 20% price increase in 19, and then another one in 20. So the longer these push out,
more expensive
the
they
more
get.
expensive it's going. And with fire, there's nothing cheap in the fire department, so there's nothing we can do about that. So I do have some good news on the next one. It's the vehicle exhaust system for our fire trucks. As everybody knows, the apparatus bays are nearing completion. And so with that, the big thing in the fire service right now is cancer. Okay, there's more and more firefighters on a daily basis being diagnosed with cancer. And it's all coming back to the carcinogens that we deal with at fires, the exhaust fumes from our vehicles. And so the exhaust system we're putting on them, it mounts on the vehicle. So the minute the key's turned on, it activates. So currently now in the winter, we have to pull our trucks out to do truck checks. And so in the winter, in January, when it's 15 below, we have to stand outside to do our truck checks. Where now with this system, we don't have to pull them out to do our truck checks because it goes through a filtering system. And anytime the truck's running, that system's running. And so in the budget here is the cost is $115,360. I just got an updated price, and it is under $97,000 for that system now, and that outfits every one of our vehicles. So that's 11 systems to go on the trucks. And then the third one is about 3 months ago we presented an app for a mobile app for the community, and at that time the cost was $5,000. I'll let the council know that we're working with Tyler and the city and Corey with the police department to just have one app so that there's not 3 different apps that the community has to download on their phone to get the information. It'll all be on one app. So we are in the process of working on that. So and the quote I have for that one, it's not in this package just because we're in it, was $16,000 for the first year, and that's set up in the service, and then after that the price goes down from there on out just for the service contract. So is there any questions for me?
On that vehicle exhaust system, that's something the firefighters can utilize in the bays when you have to have the trucks running, you hook it up to?
It's already on the truck, so there's no hoses hanging down
okay.
from the ceiling.
Okay.
That there's different systems out there. A lot of them are run on a track system, and that has a magnet on your exhaust pipe that the tube hooks to. But the problem is when that magnet fails and it doesn't release, and you rip the hose out and the tracking system, you're looking at a minimum of $10,000 just to get the track put back up and the hose and everything. Where this system, it's mounted on the truck, it ties into the exhaust system, it doesn't sit any lower than the lowest part on your truck, and so the only thing we have to replace on that is filters.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Ray. Moving on, you're getting up. I have Andrea next to my left.
Okay. All right. I'll be fast.
Okay.
I'm kind of like Tyler. Mine is a little small, but it's a $20,000 to replace City Hall's phone system. Our current vendor has had to come out several times this last year to do programming, and he said it's due to just the age of the system, and he said it's really outlived its life, and I'm sorry, I don't know how old it is.
Well, I've still been here longer than the phone system, not by much.
Not by much, so 30-some years. So it's
Okay.
just a new phone system.
All right, thank you. Next is the city administrator, and Joanne's going to cover that.
Monty has one item this evening. And council may recall in the last year's 2018 budget process, council elected to start paying Monty a stipend for his administrator vehicle, so he uses his personal vehicle. That leaves his current city vehicle, which was due to be traded out, available. And the current vehicle is going to be 19 years old, and normally the replacement date on those is 2010, so we've pushed it out to 2018. But the objective of what we're wanting to do now is to replace that administrator vehicle with a recreation vehicle. Lance in the summertime could definitely use a vehicle. He has coaches, baseball coaches, girls fast pitch coaches that go to different communities, and they could also use this vehicle. And it would be used also as a second travel car vehicle. So we're looking at roughly $34,000 to replace that vehicle. If we don't do that, then it'll probably just be sold and taken off of our insurance. Is there any questions on that one? Okay, I would just like to say in closing that all of these items have been proposed this evening. It's what the department heads have brought forward that they want in 2019. Monty and I, before we come to budget retreat on November the 14th, we'll look at our our cash fund balances, making sure that we're within our 3 to 6 months cash reserves, and with that then we'll cut, and I think he's already talked to department heads on what their highest priority is. So we know what their highest priority is in their different departments and funds. And then we'll go from there and we'll bring to council a final recommendation of what we feel would be equitable for the departments. Okay?
Thank you, Joanne. Okay, moving on to staff reports. Joanne, do you have anything to add for staff report? Save you a trip.
Ditto. The only thing I have is just to remind council that November the 14th here in the council chambers is our budget retreat. And I believe we're starting at 5:30. We'll have some type of a meal and move into the budget retreat.
Okay.
Okay.
Police, Corey.
It says six on here.
Okay, fine. We'll start at 6.
Oh, okay.
6 is fine.
Okay.
My memory said 5:30. 6 is fine.
Costco has octopus.
Oh, there you go.
Just real short, I know council was aware we had 2 new officers in FTO program. I believe they started back, it was early July, first part of July. They both successfully completed their FTO program October 1st. They were out on their own. We still have one individual he's currently going to Flat Rock Police Academy, which is actually ran through Adams County Sheriff's Office. And he is, I believe, the very first part of December. He'll be out probably the first, second week of December, and then he'll be on staff with us as well. Last time I spoke with sergeants in charge of the academy up there. They were very positive about his current status as a student there and his ongoing career after, based on his abilities and his desires, his as it was explained to me, his very high drive to learn and to succeed. So just wanted to pass that on. I think it's really good news for us. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, moving on, community development. Karen.
I just had one item to note this evening. Councilor Scalisi and I have been working with the Historic Preservation Board on the Certified Local Government application. And so we'll be bringing that probably in another month or so to one of your work sessions to talk a little bit more in depth about that application that goes to History Colorado that potentially enables us to become what they call a certified local government, and then ultimately opens some other grant revenue sources that would support the efforts to take care of Central School and other historic buildings in and around the community. So just continuing to work on that.
Right, thank you. Public Works, Dale.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, marketing, Tyler.
Just 2 brief items. Next Thursday night on the 1st, Partnering for Progress, we're going to be having our 3rd meeting, I believe, which is represented by all the different entities, taxing district entities in the organization, as well as MCEDC and the Chamber of Commerce, and of course City Council. That'll be at the golf course at 5:30, where we're going to be recapping the progress that we have made with our Partnering for Progress efforts over the last year and a half, and some next steps that we're going to work on collectively. And of course, we hope all council members can make it to that. And then the other item, the mayor and I, as well as some of the other representatives at the stakeholders group, got a tour today of the new school and the progress happening over there. Dr. Wilson led us on that, and then of course the superintendent over there. And so it's very, very exciting to see come to fruition. A lot of activity, a lot of rebar, a lot of concrete, but it's good to see that happening in the community.
All right, thank you, Tyler. Ray, do you have anything for fire?
I'll give a brief update on where they're at with
Great.
the station. So currently they got all the garage doors installed. There is a few panels that have to be replaced due to damage when they came in and on the panels, so those will be replaced. They have one more pour of concrete to do, which will be next week, I believe, on the 27th, or next week, and that will be the last of the concrete that gets poured. So all the concrete work will be done. The electricians are there putting in all the electricity. I believe the plumbers are done with all of their stuff. They'll be doing framing the wall upstairs on the mezzanine and finishing that up. So we're hoping the middle of November will be moved back in.
Still looks like the middle of November, okay.
Well, we were hoping for the end of October, but
Yeah,
that's
we're
not
close.
that's not going to happen. So hopefully by the middle of November we'll be back
Okay.
over there. So
All right.
any questions for me as far as the station goes?
We just hope for good weather for another 3 or 4 weeks.
The 15-day looks
There you go.
looks
It does,
good.
right?
So
You looked, didn't you? Okay.
We'll see. So
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
City Clerk, Andrea.
Just remind you of the newly scheduled city council meeting for November 5th at 6 p.m. And then November 4th at 6 p.m. is the 2019 budget retreat. And 14th. It says 14th.
We've got it right.
November 14th. And other than that, my office is just preparing for the special election for Ward 3 on December 11th. And if anyone has questions on that, they can contact me.
All right, thank you. Moving on to mayor and council reports. Are there any council reports tonight?
I attended the museum meeting the other night, again, they're doing excellent work out there.
Yes, they do. I was on there for 2 years. I really enjoyed that
I
time.
think they could use volunteers too, if anybody ever wants to volunteer to go out. and
Oh,
do
absolutely.
things, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Marlene. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, we'll move into our work session. We are adjourned.